Hey, I'm JayTheDevGuy. I'm making a single-player game based on the Team Fortress 2 engineer, and I'm about to give him what I genuinely think is the dumbest inventory system I've ever seen in a video game. I talk all about my plans for making a single-player game based on Team Fortress 2 in another video, but all you need to know about TF2 for this one is that the engineer has these buildings he can deploy, and you can pick them up and move them around freely in the map. No grid system or anything like that, just picking buildings up and plopping them down anywhere they fit. So I began coding this for my single-player version. And even though my version is still a prototype, I'm trying to adhere to smart coding techniques. And it's my instinct to lecture you about how slowing down and doing things properly can feel like a waste of time for a rough draft, but that the time spent doing things right pays off very quickly, and I'm not going to do that. What I actually want to focus on is how using smart code in a prototype like this really leads to more creative design and implementing cool ideas faster. And trying to code this simple feature of moving a sentry gun from one place to another led me to what I truly believe is one of the dumbest inventory systems I've ever seen. And I can't wait to show you. But before I do, what do I even mean by smart code? In this video, I want to specifically talk about components, which are a feature in most game engines that let you share a chunk of code among many different objects or actors. And this sounds a lot more technical than it really is, so let me explain what I mean. So for example, in my game, I have the player, enemies, and props. And if I wanted to code all these different types of objects to take damage, I could easily add it to all of them individually. Go into the player's code and tell them to take damage, go into the enemy's code and do the same thing, the prop, just copy paste, and so on. This doesn't sound terrible. Damage code is pretty basic, so doing it for all three classes isn't a ton of time, and like I said, I could just copy and paste, right? But there's a problem when I inevitably want to expand it. Like, if I want anything that takes damage to have a health bar over its head, I have to go into the player code, add it, test it, make sure it works, go into the enemy, copy paste it, make sure that works, and the same for the prop, and I'd have to do this again if I want taking damage to play a sound effect every time.
Life is pain!
Or health bars to change color as they get lower, and this quickly adds up to redoing a lot of work in a lot of different places to get the same exact result. What I should do instead is create a component that contains all my health and damage related code inside of it. Then tell the player, enemies, and props to just use the component. Since everything health related is in one place, if I want to make any changes to how everything in the game reacts to taking damage, I only have to do that work once and in one place. And really, I can take this further by splitting everything I've mentioned so far into their own self-contained boxes. Health bars can be a separate component, playing a sound effect can be a reusable function, and so on. In programming, this is sometimes called the single responsibility principle, where a module of code is only responsible for one thing. And that way if, or really not if, but when, you have to make adjustments, finding what you need to change is easy, and changing it shouldn't break 100 unrelated things in the process. So to get back to my prototype, I needed the engineer to be able to pick up his sentry gun and move it somewhere else. I could have easily hard-coded something being movable to just the sentry gun, since that's the only thing I was planning on ever being able to move, but I thought there wasn't really a reason not to just isolate all of that into a reusable component. And once I got that working, I thought to myself, hey, since this is reusable, I could give any random prop the grabbable component, and now the player can move it around too. And since multiple objects are now movable, what if the player could carry multiple objects at once? When I first coded the carrying the sentry gun, I just moved it right on top of the character's head, just because I found it funny. But now that I have multiple movable objects, what if I wanted to carry multiple objects at once? And the simplest solution I coded in at the time was just stacking everything else on the player's head too. So now my engineer can not only carry multiple things, but balance this cartoonishly stupid stack of items on top of their head while moving around. And the bigger the stack gets, the dumber it all seems, and the more I kinda love it. I want playing my game to feel like playing the engineer in TF2, which is always a frantic rush of putting out fires and barely holding everything together. So stacking and unstacking this collection of objects around the map to suit your needs is a perfect fit. It's this feeling of bringing order to chaos that's very Pikmin-like, and seeing your stupid little stack grow to ridiculous heights is very Katamari-like, and I love how these two conflicting vibes coexist here. Not to mention, there's something to be said about taking inspiration from Team Fortress 2 and creating a new mechanic all about putting things on your head, which is oddly poetic. Any TF2 player will tell you that hats are the main mechanic of the game, so it's only fitting my single-player spiritual successor follows suit. And now if objects being stackable is a shareable component, why not make the ability to hold a stack a shareable component too? With some simple reworking, I can now have enemies collecting ridiculous stacks of their own, and now the entire battlefield is this circus of everyone carrying around these towering pillars of objects, and I love this idea even more now. And since stacking objects on your head is apparently a main mechanic of my game now, I could have certain objects grant abilities to characters who carry them. A lot of the comments in my last video told me to look at Risk of Rain 2's engineer for inspiration, and what if I took the bustling fungus from that game, which creates this AoE ring of healing that can be placed next to your sentries for a fantastic combo, and what if my engineer could also just carry it on his head to heal himself? There could be an item that, when held by the player or enemy, grants them a movement speed boost or increases their attack speed, like the Bunny Hood in Super Smash Bros. Maybe I can make a bomb that automatically detonates so that it can be grabbed and placed around strategically. It could be a threat when carried by enemies, a liability when carried by yourself, and a tool when placed in just the right spot. I don't know, this shared item pool between the player and enemies just gives me so many ideas as a designer, and I haven't even gotten to the best part. Because what if enemies could not just carry stacks, but be stacked themselves? I mean, everything's reusable and shareable, so why not? It's as simple as just giving the enemies the stackable component. Now I can have a fast enemy carry a slow sniper enemy and become this new mobile threat that's greater than the sum of its parts. Or a flying enemy could carry other enemies, and now basically any enemy has a flying variation built right in just through this stacking system. Enemies could also just have a massive stack of a bunch of other enemies and become this Goomba Tower abomination. So yeah, I'm more excited for this game now than ever, and I hope you are too. But I hope this also showed off that not only is using smart code good practice to keep things functional and keep things readable and performance and all that, but also that using good principles can actually help the game design process. There's this notion, I think, that a game's design is separate from its programming, and that, code is just a means to an end, a necessary evil to bring to life the actually cool thing a designer thought up. But the more I learn to code, the more I realize that design isn't a sequential step to eventually making a game. It's a constant process that grows alongside the ones and zeros that actually run the thing on a computer. And if you code smart, someday you might just be able to design something really, really dumb. So, do the YouTube stuff, subscribe to see what's next for this prototype, but in particular, I want to ask again to comment any interesting ideas you have for this little game. I'm still a small and naive enough YouTuber to read every comment, and I genuinely enjoyed reading all the ideas people had in my last video. I got some fan art too, which I apparently have, despite only posting 2 videos before this, but I love it, so if you feel compelled to draw my stupid little paper guy or something, please @ or DM me on Twitter at JayTheDevGuy, and I don't know, I might show it off at the end of my next video if I get more, which is super cool. But really, I want to thank you so much for watching. This is only my 3rd video, and the response here has been super motivating to keep me working on this game and this YouTube channel in between my full-time job and life and stuff. I have one other video about this TF2 single-player game, and my very first video is about how I handle 2D characters in 3D worlds, which a lot of people mention they really enjoy, so I do have a whole video just about that. It's my first one, so check those out if you want, and subscribe to see what's next. See you next time.